"Mom, you're embarrassing me. You're too old to be at my party." Those words hit me like a slap across the face. I stood there in my own kitchen, holding the birthday cake I'd spent 3 hours decorating, staring at my son, my only child, the boy I'd raised alone, the man I'd sacrificed everything for, and watched him look at me like I was trash she needed to take out. "Excuse me?" My voice barely came out as a whisper. Trevor rolled his eyes, the same eyes that used to light up when I walked into a room, the same eyes that once cried for me when he scraped his knee. "You heard me. This party is for successful people, young people, my colleagues from the firm, investors, influencers, not you, not me, not the woman who worked 3 jobs to put him through private school, not the mother who sold her wedding ring to pay for his college textbooks, not the person who gave up her entire life so he could have his." I felt something inside me crack that night. Something that had been bending for years finally snapped clean in half. But what Trevor didn't know, what nobody knew, was that I held a secret that would destroy him, and 3 days later, I did exactly that. My name is Vivian Russo, and I'm 57 years old. For most of my life, I've kept my mouth shut. I've smiled when I wanted to scream, I've forgiven when I should have fought back, and I've let people walk all over me because I thought that's what good mothers do. But not anymore. I've never told this story to anyone, not to my sister, not to my therapist, not even to myself in the mirror late at night when the shame kept me awake. But I'm telling it now because I need people to understand what happens when you push someone too far, when you take and take and take until there's nothing left except the one card you didn't know they were holding. Before I continue, I need you to do something for me. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel. Leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. I want to know how far these stories reach, how many of you out there have felt what I've felt. It helps me more than you know. Now let me take you back to where it all began. Trevor was born on a Tuesday in March during the worst rainstorm Seattle had seen in 20 years. His father, Kenneth, wasn't there. He was working late again, which I later discovered meant he was working late inside his secretary's apartment. But I didn't know that then that night. I just knew I was alone, screaming through contractions, with only a nurse whose name I never learned holding my hand. From the moment Trevor came into this world, it was just him and me. Kenneth left when Trevor was 6 months old. He didn't leave a note. He didn't leave an explanation. He left a stack of unpaid bills, an eviction notice, and a phone number that was disconnected by the time I tried to call it. I was 23 years old with a baby, no college degree, and exactly $412 in my bank account. Those early years were a blur of diaper changes and night shifts. I worked as a waitress at a diner from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., then came home to take care of Trevor during the day, surviving on 3 hours of sleep and coffee so bitter it made my teeth hurt. My body was always exhausted, always aching. I remember one morning I fell asleep while giving Trevor his bottle, and I woke up to him crying because I dropped it on the floor. I cried harder than he did that day, but I never gave up, never, because Trevor was brilliant, even as a toddler. He started reading at 3 years old. At 5, he was doing math problems that confused me. His kindergarten teacher pulled me aside one day and said, "Mrs. Russo, your son is gifted. He could go far with the right education." The right education meant money. Money I didn't have. So I got a second job cleaning office buildings downtown, then a third job doing data entry from home whenever Trevor napped. I slept 4 hours a night if I was lucky. I wore the same 3 outfits for 2 years because every penny went to Trevor's needs. I cut my own hair with kitchen scissors in the bathroom mirror. I remember Trevor's 8th birthday. He wanted a bicycle so badly he'd drawn pictures of it for months. I'd been saving for 6 months, hiding $5 bills in a coffee can under my bed. The night before his birthday, our landlord raised the rent by $200. I gave him the coffee can money. Trevor didn't get a bicycle that year. He smiled when he opened his present, a used book about space, but I saw the disappointment in his eyes. That look haunted me for weeks. I promised myself he'd never be disappointed again. I worked harder. I took business courses at community college at night, falling asleep over textbooks, forcing myself to stay awake by standing up while I read. It took me 7 years, but I finally earned my degree. Then I started my own small business, a consulting firm helping small companies with their operations. It was terrifying and exhausting, and there were months I thought I'd fail. But slowly, painfully slowly, it grew. By the time Trevor was in high school, I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was succeeding, but Trevor never noticed. To him, I was just mom, just the woman who drove him to soccer practice, who checked his homework, who signed his permission slips. He never saw the sacrifices. He never knew about the nights I cried from exhaustion, or the times I skipped meals so he could have seconds, or the job promotions I turned down because they would have taken time away from him. He just saw that other kids' parents had nicer cars, bigger houses, better clothes, and he resented me for it. The resentment started small. Little comments here and there. Brandon's mom drives a BMW. Why do you drive that old Honda? Emily's mom works from home. Why are you always gone? Everyone else's parents are together. Why did Dad leave us? Each question was a tiny knife, small cuts that bled more than they should have. I tried to explain, tried to make him understand, but how do you tell a child that his father didn't love him enough to stay? How do you tell a teenager that the reason you're always working is because you're trying to build something better for both of you? You can't, so I just took the hits and kept moving forward. High school was when things got worse. Trevor fell in with a crowd of rich kids whose parents owned tech companies and investment firms. He started coming home talking about exotic vacations and country club memberships and trust funds. He started looking at our modest 3-bedroom house like it was a prison. One night, he was 16. He exploded at me over dinner. "I'm so tired of being poor," he shouted, throwing his fork across the table. "Do you know how embarrassing it is when everyone else's parents are executives and entrepreneurs and mine is just me, the woman who'd rebuilt her entire life so he could have opportunities I never had." "Trevor," I said quietly, my hands shaking, "I own my own company. I'm not poor. We have a good life. We live in a tiny house. I drive a car from 2010. I can't even afford to go on the senior trip to Europe." His face was red, twisted with teenage anger and something uglier underneath. "You're so pathetic, Mom. You act like you've done so much for me, but look around. This is all you've managed to accomplish?" I didn't eat dinner that night. I went to my room and stared at the ceiling until dawn, wondering where I'd gone wrong, but I still paid for his senior trip. I took out a loan I couldn't really afford and handed him the check without saying a word. He didn't even thank me. He just took it like it was his right. College was supposed to be different. Trevor got into a prestigious business school on the East Coast, full scholarship because of his grades. I was so proud I cried when the acceptance letter came. I threw him a party, invited all our relatives, made a cake from scratch with "Congratulations, Trevor" written in blue frosting. He barely looked at it. He was too busy texting his new girlfriend, Sierra, whose father owned a pharmaceutical company. The day I drove him to the airport, I tried to hug him goodbye. He patted my shoulder like I was a casual acquaintance and said, "I'll see you at Thanksgiving, I guess." I stood in that airport watching my son walk away without looking back, and I felt something die inside me. Not love, I still loved him fiercely, desperately, but something else. Hope, maybe. Or the dream that one day he'd see me as more than an obligation. He came home for Thanksgiving that first year. He brought Sierra with him. She was beautiful and cold and looked at our house like she was touring a museum of poverty. "This is quaint," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Trevor talks about growing up so humbly. I think it's really admirable how you made do with so little, Mrs. Russo." Trevor laughed. Actually laughed. I served them a meal I'd spent 2 days preparing and they picked at it while talking about the Michelin star restaurant they'd eaten at last week. They left their plates half full and disappeared to Trevor's room, leaving me to clean up alone. That was the night I realized I'd lost him. Not to another woman, though Sierra was certainly part of it. I'd lost him to success, to ambition, to the world I'd worked so hard to give him access to. He'd climbed the ladder I built, then kicked it down behind him so no one would know where he'd started. The years passed. Trevor graduated top of his class naturally. He got a job at Whitmore and Sterling, one of the most prestigious investment firms in New York. He moved into a luxury apartment in Manhattan, started wearing suits that cost more than my monthly mortgage, started dating models and heiresses. He called me maybe once a month, always rushed, always distracted. "Hey, Mom, can't talk long. I'm headed into a meeting. Hi, Mom, sorry. I'm at a networking event. Mom, I'll call you back later. I'm closing a deal." He never called back, but he always called when he needed something. Money for a security deposit, money for a car down payment, money for an engagement ring when he decided to propose to Courtney, his third girlfriend in 2 years, daughter of a venture capitalist. I gave him everything he asked for. I told myself it was helping him build his future, but deep down I knew the truth. I was buying his love. And he was letting me. The engagement to Courtney lasted 3 months before she dumped him for someone richer. Trevor called me that night, actually called me, and cried like he was 6 years old again. "Mom, I don't understand. I gave her everything. I wanted to say welcome to my world. Instead, I said, 'I'm sorry, sweetheart. You deserve better. Everyone leaves me, he sobbed. Dad, Courtney, everyone. I never left you, I whispered. I've never left you, Trevor. There was a long pause. Then I know, Mom, I know. I'm sorry I haven't been better about calling. I'll do better, I promise. For 2 weeks he called every day. We talked about his work, his goals, his life. He seemed like my son again, like the little boy who used to tell me everything. I thought we'd turned a corner. Then he met Sloan. Sloan was different from the others. She wasn't old money or daddy's princess. She was a self-made entrepreneur, ran her own marketing agency, smart and ambitious and beautiful. Trevor fell hard and fast. After 6 months, he called me. Mom, I'm getting married. My heart should have swelled with joy. Instead, I felt a cold dread settle in my stomach. That's wonderful, Trevor. When's the wedding? 6 months from now. Small ceremony, just close friends and family. I'll send you the details. Do you want me to help plan it? I'd love to. Sloan's handling everything, Mom. She's got it under control. Oh, okay. Well, I can't wait to meet her properly. Yeah, we'll set something up. We never did. The next 6 months, I saw Trevor exactly twice. Once at a brief coffee meeting where he introduced me to Sloan, who smiled politely and checked her phone the entire time, and once at the wedding itself, where I sat in the back row like a distant relative nobody quite remembered inviting. At the reception, Trevor gave a speech thanking everyone who'd supported him. He thanked his friends, his mentors, his new wife's family, his colleagues. He didn't mention me once. I went home that night and cried until I had no tears left. But I still sent them a check for $10,000 as a wedding gift. Trevor texted me thanks 3 days later. Not thank you, Mom, just thanks. The marriage changed Trevor even more. He and Sloan became one of those power couples you see in business magazines, always at galas and charity events, always posting pictures of their perfect life on social media. I followed his Instagram even though it hurt. Every post was another reminder that I wasn't part of his world anymore. Trevor and Sloan at a charity auction, Trevor and Sloan on a yacht in the Mediterranean, Trevor and Sloan meeting city officials and tech moguls and celebrities. I tried to like his posts, leave little comments like "so proud of you" or "you look wonderful." He never responded, but he still called when he needed money. Always for something important, something that would advance his career or impress the right people. Mom, I need $20,000 for this investment opportunity. Mom, can you loan me $15,000? It's for a business venture. Mom, I'm $5,000 short on a down payment for a beach house. I gave it all to him, every penny he asked for. My business was doing well by then, better than well, actually. I'd grown my consulting firm into something substantial, with clients across the country. I'd made smart investments, worked with the right people, built something real, but I lived modestly. Same house I'd lived in for 20 years. Same old Honda, just a newer model. I didn't need luxury. I'd spent so many years with nothing that having enough felt like wealth. The money I saved, I gave to Trevor, because deep down, I still believed that one day he'd see what I'd done for him. One day he'd appreciate it. One day he'd love me the way I loved him. I was a fool. Everything came to a head 3 months ago, on Trevor's 35th birthday. He called me out of the blue on a Tuesday afternoon. Hey, Mom. Trevor. Hi, I was just thinking about you. Your birthday's coming up next week. Yeah, about that. I'm having a party. Big one. Sloan's planning it. It's going to be at this incredible venue in Manhattan, super upscale. My heart leaped. Oh, that sounds wonderful. What day? I'll fly out Saturday the 15th. But Mom, listen. He paused, and in that pause I heard something that made my blood run cold. The thing is, this is a really important event for me. There's going to be a lot of significant people there. Clients, investors, my new boss from the firm. It's kind of a networking thing as much as a birthday party. Okay, I said slowly. So I need everyone there to make the right impression. You understand? Trevor, what I'm saying is, I think it's better if you don't come. The words didn't make sense at first. They were just sounds, syllables in the wrong order. What? You'll feel out of place, Mom. Everyone there is going to be young, successful, wearing designer clothes, talking about million-dollar deals. You'd be uncomfortable. Trevor, I'm your mother. I wouldn't be uncomfortable celebrating your birthday. Mom! His voice took on an edge, a sharpness I'd heard before but never directed at me quite so bluntly. You don't fit into this world. You never have, and I need this night to be perfect. I can't have you there embarrassing me. Embarrassing him. The woman who'd given him everything was an embarrassment. How? My voice cracked. How would I embarrass you? He sighed, like I was being difficult. You're 57, Mom. You look 57. You dress like someone's grandmother. You don't know how to talk to these people. You'd say something inappropriate or tell one of your stories about struggling when I was a kid, and everyone would feel awkward. I can't risk it. Not on this night. Something broke inside me then. Not broke, shattered. Exploded into 1,000 pieces that I knew I'd never be able to put back together. I see, I said quietly. Don't be like that. I'll take you to dinner the next week, just the two of us. But this party, it's not for you. You're right, I heard myself say. It's not for me. Nothing has ever been for me. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, Trevor. Have a wonderful party. I hung up before he could respond. Then I sat in my kitchen, staring at the birthday cake I'd already started baking for him, and I let myself feel the full weight of 35 years of sacrifice, love, hope, and pain. And in that moment, I made a decision. I didn't cry after that phone call. I was done crying. Instead, I opened my laptop and started making plans. You see, what Trevor didn't know, what he'd never bothered to learn, was exactly how successful my company had become. He'd never asked questions. He'd never shown interest. When I told him about my business, his eyes glazed over and he changed the subject. He had no idea that my little consulting firm had grown exponentially over the past 10 years. He had no idea that 5 years ago I diversified, started acquiring other companies, building a portfolio. He had no idea that 2 years ago I'd purchased a 70% stake in a struggling investment firm, turned it around, and made it profitable again. And he definitely had no idea that the investment firm he worked for, Whitmore and Sterling, was one of my holdings. I'd kept it quiet, operated through an LLC, let the existing management team run the day-to-day operations. I'd been a silent partner, content to let my money work for me while I focused on other ventures. But I wasn't going to be silent anymore. I picked up my phone and called Harrison, the managing director of Whitmore and Sterling. "Vivian, this is a surprise. What can I do for you?" "Harrison, I need you to look into one of your employees, Trevor Rousseau." "Trevor Rousseau, yes, he's one of our junior partners. Good track record, hungry, makes the company money." "Why?" "I want his complete file, performance reviews, client lists, everything. Is there a problem?" "Not yet," I said. "But there might be. How's his upcoming performance review looking?" "Actually, he's up for senior partner this year. We were planning to announce it at his birthday party this weekend. Big celebration, supposed to be great for morale." I smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant smile. "I'll be attending that party, Harrison, and we need to have a conversation before the announcement is made." There was a pause. "Vivian, is there something I should know?" "You'll know everything you need to know on Saturday. In the meantime, send me Trevor's file. I want to review it personally. Of course, I'll have it to you within the hour." That night, I read through Trevor's entire employment history, and what I found made me sick. He'd lied about his background. On his application, he'd claimed he came from a wealthy family, implied his mother was deceased, and suggested he'd had a substantial trust fund that paid for his education. He'd erased me completely. Not just hidden me, erased me. I kept reading. There were complaints from female colleagues about inappropriate comments. Nothing severe enough to warrant termination, but a pattern of behavior that made me realize I didn't know my son at all anymore. There were client notes describing him as aggressive, arrogant, and dismissive. There were expense reports showing he'd been using company money for personal luxuries, always just under the threshold that would trigger an audit. My son wasn't just ungrateful, he was unethical, and he was about to be promoted to senior partner, making even more money, gaining even more power, stepping on even more people, just like he'd stepped on me. I wouldn't let it happen. Saturday arrived, Trevor's birthday party. I got dressed that morning with more care than I'd taken in years. I wore a black designer suit I'd bought for a board meeting but never worn. I had my hair professionally styled. I put on makeup, real jewelry, expensive shoes. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked powerful, confident, done with taking shit from anyone. "Hello, Vivian," I said to my reflection. "Welcome back." The party was at an exclusive rooftop venue in Manhattan, all glass and steel and city lights. I arrived exactly at 7 p.m., fashionably on time. The woman at the door checked her list, looking confused. "Name, please?" "Vivian Rousseau. I don't see you on the guest list." "I'm the owner of Whitmore and Sterling," I said calmly. "I believe that grants me entry." Her face went white. "Oh my God, Mrs. Rousseau. Yes, of course. Please, come in." "I'm so sorry. It's fine. Where's Trevor?" She pointed toward the center of the room, where my son stood surrounded by admirers, holding court like a king. I made my way through the crowd. People parted from me without knowing why, sensing something in my posture, my expression, my energy. Trevor saw me when I was 10 feet away. His face went through several expressions in rapid succession: confusion, recognition, disbelief, and finally, anger. "Mom?" He said it like it was a question and an accusation at once. "What are you doing here?" The conversations around us stopped. People turned to look. "I'm attending your birthday party, Trevor. Surprise! I told you not to come." His voice was low, furious. "I specifically told you. You told me I was too old, too embarrassing, that I didn't fit into your world." I smiled, and I saw him flinch at whatever he saw in my face. "But you see, Trevor, this is my world. You're just living in it. What are you talking about?" Sloane appeared at his side, looking alarmed. "Trevor, what's going on? Who is this?" "This is my mother," Trevor said through gritted teeth. "Your mother?" Sloane's eyes widened. "But you said she was dead?" I supplied helpfully. "Is that what he told you?" Sloane looked between us, her face pale. "Trevor told me his mother died when he was young," she said quietly, "that he was raised by his father." The crowd around us had grown larger. People were pulling out their phones. Trevor's face was red. "Mom, not here. Not now. Why not now? This is your big night, isn't it? Your birthday celebration, your promotion announcement?" I looked at the people gathered around us. "Has he told you all yet that he's about to make senior partner?" "How do you know about that?" Trevor demanded. Harrison appeared through the crowd, looking deeply uncomfortable. "Trevor, I need to speak with you. In private. Now." "Harrison, what is she talking about?" Trevor's voice was rising, panic creeping in. "I'm talking about the fact that I own 70% of Whitmore and Sterling," I said calmly. "I'm talking about the fact that you've been lying on your employment records, misusing company funds, and treating people, especially women, with appalling disrespect. I'm talking about the fact that you're not getting promoted tonight, Trevor. You're getting fired." The room erupted in whispers. Trevor's face went from red to white. "That's not— You can't— I can actually, and I am." I turned to Harrison. "Do you have the termination papers?" Harrison, looking miserable, pulled an envelope from his jacket. "Trevor, I'm sorry. We need to talk in the conference room." "No!" Trevor grabbed my arm, his grip tight enough to hurt. "You can't do this. You're my mother, and you're my son," I said quietly, pulling my arm free. "The son I worked 3 jobs to support. The son I put through school while I starved myself to save money. The son I gave everything to, everything I had, everything I was." Tears were running down my face now, but I didn't care. "And you looked at me tonight, before you knew who I really was, and you saw an old woman who embarrassed you. You saw trash you wanted to hide." "Mom, please, I gave you the world, Trevor. I built it with my bare hands, and I handed it to you on a silver platter, and you spat in my face." The room was completely silent now. Even the music had stopped. "So yes," I said, "I can do this, and I am." I turned to Harrison. "Process his termination. Security will escort him out. Sloane, I assume you'll want to distance yourself from this situation. I understand completely." Sloane was already backing away from Trevor, her face a mask of horror. Trevor stood there, frozen, his entire world crumbling around him. "Mom," he whispered, "please, don't do this." "Too old," I said softly. "That's what you called me. Too old for your party, too old for your life, too old to matter." I turned and walked away, leaving my son standing in the ruins of his birthday party, his career, and his lies. But that wasn't the end of the story. That wasn't even the worst part, because what I discovered in the weeks that followed made everything else pale in comparison. After Trevor's termination, I did what I should have done years ago. I hired a private investigator to look into my son's life. Not because I wanted to hurt him more. I didn't. I was done hurting. I just needed to understand how the sweet little boy who used to draw me pictures had become this stranger. What the investigator found broke my heart all over again. Trevor had been stealing from me for years. Not just borrowing money, stealing it. He'd gotten access to one of my older bank accounts that I rarely checked, and he'd been draining it slowly, carefully, taking amounts small enough that I wouldn't notice but large enough to fund his lifestyle. Over 5 years, he'd taken nearly $200,000. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the emails the investigator recovered. Emails between Trevor and his wife, Sloane. Emails between Trevor and his friends. Emails where he called me the old bitch. Emails where he laughed about how easy it was to manipulate me. Emails where he told Sloan that once I died, he'd inherit everything and they'd finally be able to live properly. Emails where he joked about how pathetic I was, how desperate for his love, how he could get money from me anytime he wanted by pretending to care for a few days. One email, sent just 2 weeks before his birthday party, made me physically ill. Mom called again today, crying about how she never sees me. God, she's so needy. I'll take her to dinner next month, let her think we're close again, then hit her up for another loan. She's such a sucker. Can't wait until we inherit everything and I never have to see her again. I read that email 10 times, hoping I was misunderstanding it, hoping there was some context that made it less cruel. There wasn't. My son didn't just not love me, he hated me, despised me, saw me as nothing but a resource to be exploited until I was used up. And the really sick part? He'd learned it from his father, because I'd done one more thing after the party. I'd hired someone to find Kenneth, my ex-husband, the man who'd abandoned us when Trevor was 6 months old. He'd been living in California this whole time, and Trevor had been in contact with him for years. Kenneth had found Trevor on social media when he was in college and reached out. They'd built a relationship. Kenneth had poisoned Trevor against me, told him I'd been a terrible wife, an overbearing mother, that I'd driven him away. Trevor had believed him, or maybe he'd wanted to believe him because it justified his resentment, his cruelty, his greed. Father and son reunited in their hatred of the woman who'd actually been there. The day I found out about Kenneth, I did something I never thought I'd do. I called Trevor. He answered on the first ring, probably hoping I was calling to apologize, to give him his job back, to forgive him. Mom, when did you meet him? I asked without preamble. Silence. When did you meet your father, Trevor? Mom, I can explain. Don't lie to me. Not anymore. When? Sophomore year of college. 7 years. He'd been lying to me for 7 years, and you never told me. What was I supposed to say? Hey, Mom, I found Dad, and he's actually a great guy? Is he? My voice was hollow. Is he a great guy, Trevor? The man who abandoned his infant son, who left his wife with nothing, who disappeared without a word. He said you drove him away. He said you were controlling and manipulative, and you believed him. Of course you did, because it was easier than accepting that your father was a coward and a liar. He's not. Did he tell you why he left, Trevor? Did he tell you about the affair? About the 3 other women I found out about after he was gone? Did he tell you about the $50,000 he stole from our joint account on his way out the door? Silence. Or did he paint himself as a victim of his terrible wife, and you just ate it up because it gave you permission to hate me too? I don't hate you. His voice was small. The old bitch. That's what you call me in your emails. A sucker. Pathetic. I was surprised at how calm I sounded. You don't hate me, Trevor. Then what is this? How did you? It doesn't matter how I know. What matters is that you've been lying to me, stealing from me, using me for years. What matters is that you've been waiting for me to die so you can inherit my money. What matters is that every I love you you've ever said to me was a transaction. Mom, I was just venting. Everyone says things they don't mean. Do you want to know something funny? I interrupted. I was going to leave you everything, every penny, every property, every investment. I was going to make sure you never had to work another day in your life. I heard his breathing change. I changed my will this morning, Trevor. Every asset I have is now going to charity, scholarships for single mothers, organizations that help abandoned families, people who actually need help, not entitled brats who spit on the people who love them. You can't, I can, and I have. You'll get nothing from me, Trevor. Not now, not when I die, nothing. Mom, please. I'm sorry, I didn't mean those things. I was just angry. Angry about what? About being given everything, about having a mother who loved you unconditionally, about opportunities I never had but killed myself to give you. He was crying now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please. And God help me. Part of me wanted to forgive him. Part of me wanted to take it all back, give him another chance, believe that somewhere inside him was the little boy who used to hug me and say I was the best mom in the world. But I'd spent 35 years believing in that little boy. He didn't exist anymore. Maybe he never had. Goodbye, Trevor, I said. Mom, wait. I hung up. He called back 17 times that night. I didn't answer. That was 3 months ago. Since then, Trevor has tried everything. He's sent emails, letters, shown up at my house. He's had Sloan call me, they're divorcing, unsurprisingly. He's had his father call me. I hung up on Kenneth within 5 seconds. He's apologized, begged, threatened, bargained. None of it matters. I'm done. Whitmore and Sterling replaced him with a young woman who actually earned her position through hard work and integrity. The company's doing better than ever. Trevor got a job at a smaller firm, took a massive pay cut, lost the apartment in Manhattan. He and Sloane sold the beach house. Last I heard, he's living in a one-bedroom in Queens. It's still better than the places I lived when I was raising him alone. People ask me if I feel guilty, if I regret what I did. I don't. What I regret is waiting so long. What I regret is all those years I spent sacrificing myself for someone who saw me as nothing but a bank account with a heartbeat. What I regret is teaching my son that he could treat me like garbage and I'd keep coming back for more, but I don't regret ending it. I don't regret showing him that actions have consequences. I don't regret choosing myself, finally, after 35 years of choosing him. Someone asked me last week if I thought Trevor learned his lesson, if I thought he understood what he'd done wrong. I don't know, and I don't care anymore, because this was never about teaching him a lesson. This was about me finally learning mine. I learned that you can love someone with everything you have and they can still treat you like you're worthless. I learned that sacrifice doesn't guarantee gratitude. I learned that sometimes the people we give the most to are the ones who respect us the least. And I learned that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, even when the person hurting you is the one you love most in the world. Last week, something happened that I need to tell you about. I was at a coffee shop near my house working on my laptop when someone sat down across from me. It was Trevor. He looked terrible, thinner, older, with dark circles under his eyes and a suit that had seen better days. "Please don't leave," he said before I could stand up. "I'm not here to ask for anything. I just need to say something. I should have left anyway." But something in his voice stopped me. "You have 5 minutes," I said. He nodded, staring at his hands. "I've been in therapy. Since the party. 3 times a week." I didn't respond. My therapist asked me to write down every memory I have of my childhood. Every single one. He pulled out a worn notebook from his bag. I filled 2 of these. He set it on the table between us. And you know what I realized? Every good memory I have involves you. Every single one. You at my soccer games. You helping me with my science fair project even though you were exhausted from work. You staying up all night when I had the flu. You teaching me to ride a bike in the parking lot because we couldn't afford to live near a park. His voice cracked. Every good thing in my life came from you, and I spent 15 years pretending it didn't matter because I was ashamed. Ashamed of what? I asked quietly. Of being poor. Of having a mom who worked 3 jobs instead of going to country clubs. Of not having the kind of family my friends had. He looked up at me, and his eyes were red. I was so desperate to fit in with those rich kids that I rewrote my entire history. And once I started lying, I couldn't stop. You could have stopped at any time, Trevor. I know. But I didn't want to, because every time I lied about where I came from, I felt powerful. I felt like I'd escaped something shameful. He wiped his eyes. I didn't realize until it was too late that the only shameful thing was me. I took a sip of my coffee. It had gone cold. "Is this the part where you ask me to forgive you?" "No." He shook his head. "I know you won't. I know I don't deserve it. I just needed you to know that I understand now what you did for me, what I threw away." He stood up, leaving the notebook on the table. "I also need you to know that I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be the man you deserved as a son. Not for you, I know I've lost that chance, but for myself. Because I don't want to be this person anymore." He started to walk away, then stopped. "And Mom, you were never too old. You were never embarrassing. You were never anything except exactly what a mother should be. I was just too stupid and selfish to see it." Then he left. I sat there for an hour, staring at that notebook, not opening it. Finally, I threw it in the trash. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that notebook sitting in a coffee shop dumpster somewhere. At 2 a.m., I got dressed and drove back to the coffee shop. I dug through their dumpster like a crazy person until I found it. I took it home, and I read it. Every page was a memory, written in Trevor's handwriting. Most of them I remembered. Some of them I'd forgotten. Age 7. Mom worked a double shift but still came to my school play. She fell asleep during intermission, but woke up in time to see me. She gave me a standing ovation. I was so proud. Age 10, I was being bullied at school. Mom took the day off work, which she couldn't afford, to meet with the principal. The bullying stopped. I never thanked her. Age 13, I told Mom I hated her because she wouldn't buy me expensive sneakers. She cried. I didn't apologize. She still bought me sneakers for Christmas. Not the expensive ones, but nice ones. I wore them once and complained they weren't good enough. Age 16, Mom got sick, really sick. She still went to work because we needed the money. I never asked if she was okay. I just complained that she couldn't drive me to my friend's house. Age 22, college graduation. Mom was in the audience crying with pride. I barely acknowledged her during the family photos because I was embarrassed by her cheap dress. She'd bought it special for the occasion, page after page of memories, moments I'd forgotten, or moments that had seemed insignificant at the time, but were apparently seared into Trevor's consciousness now. The last entry was dated 3 days ago, age 35. I called my mother too old for my birthday party, the woman who gave me life, who sacrificed everything, who loved me unconditionally for 35 years. I called her too old, too embarrassing, not good enough for my world. The truth is, I was never good enough for hers. She built an empire from nothing. She raised a son alone. She survived abandonment, poverty, and heartbreak. And she never gave up. And I became exactly like the father who abandoned us. I don't know if I can fix this. I don't know if there's enough therapy in the world to undo what I've done, but I'm going to try. Not because I think I can win her back, but because she deserves to know that she didn't fail. I did. I closed the notebook and put it in a drawer. I didn't throw it away. But I didn't call Trevor either. Here's what I want you to understand. This story isn't a fairy tale. There's no neat resolution where mother and son reconcile and everything is fine. Maybe that will happen someday. Maybe years from now, Trevor will have proven through actions, not words, that he's changed. Maybe I'll be able to look at him and see my son instead of my betrayer. Or maybe I won't. Maybe some wounds are too deep to heal. Maybe some betrayals are too complete to forgive. And you know what? That's okay. Because I'm learning something I never knew before. I don't have to forgive someone just because they're family. I don't have to let someone back into my life just because they're sorry. I don't have to sacrifice my peace for someone else's redemption arc. For 35 years, I made Trevor my whole world. I defined myself as his mother before I was anything else. Now I'm defining myself as Vivian. Just Vivian. A woman who built a business empire. A woman who survived everything life threw at her. A woman who finally learned to choose herself. And if Trevor becomes the man he claims he wants to be, good. I hope he does. I hope he learns to treat people with respect. I hope he learns that success without integrity is worthless. I hope he learns that the people who love you aren't resources to be exploited, they're treasures to be cherished. But he'll have to learn those lessons without me. Because I'm done teaching him. I'm done sacrificing. I'm done waiting for someone to love me the way I loved them. I'm just done. A few weeks after the coffee shop meeting, my lawyer called. Vivian, I need to tell you something. Trevor came to see me. My heart sank. What did he want? He wanted to know if there was a way to legally prevent himself from ever inheriting from you, even if you changed your mind. He wanted it in writing that he relinquishes any claim to your estate, now and forever. I sat down heavily. Why would he do that? He said, and I'm quoting here, I need my mother to know that I'm not waiting for her to die. I'm not trying to earn my way back into her will. I just want her to be happy, even if that happiness doesn't include me. Didn't say anything for a long moment. Vivian, are you still there? I'm here. Did you draw up the papers? I did. He signed them yesterday. It's legally binding. Even if you wanted to leave him something, you couldn't. He's waived all rights. Okay, I said quietly. Thank you for telling me. After I hung up, I sat in my living room for hours, just thinking. Trevor wasn't trying to manipulate me. If anything, he'd done the opposite. He'd made sure I knew he expected nothing, wanted nothing, just wanted me to be free of him. It didn't fix what he'd done. It didn't erase the years of pain. But it was something. A small something, but something. I'm telling you this story today because I see so many people, especially women, especially mothers, who are where I was. Giving everything to people who give nothing back. Sacrificing themselves for people who don't appreciate the sacrifice, accepting crumbs of affection from people who should be giving them feasts of love. And I need you to hear this. You don't have to. You don't have to keep trying with people who hurt you. You don't have to forgive betrayal just because it's family. You don't have to light yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. It's not selfish to choose yourself. It's not cruel to set boundaries. It's not unforgivable to say enough. I spent 35 years being a good mother, a great mother, the best mother I knew how to be, and my son still treated me like trash. That wasn't my failure. That was his, and I refused to let his failure define the rest of my life. So where am I now? I'm traveling. Something I never did because I was always working or worrying about Trevor. Last month, I went to Japan. Next month, I'm going to Greece. I'm seeing the world I spent so many years building but never enjoying. I'm dating a kind man named Marcus who owns a bookstore and thinks I'm brilliant. He knows my whole story. I told him on our second date, expecting him to run. Instead, he held my hand and said, "You're the strongest person I've ever met. I'm living in a new house, a beautiful house I bought for myself, not as an investment, not as something to pass down, but just because I wanted it. I'm spending my money on myself. Spa days and nice dinners and designer clothes and all the things I denied myself for decades. I'm not saving it for anyone. I'm not leaving it to anyone. When I die, it's all going to charity, just like I told Trevor. And I'm happy. Actually, genuinely, surprisingly happy. For the first time in 35 years, I'm not worried about someone else's future. I'm living my own present. And it's beautiful. As for Trevor, I don't know where he is or what he's doing. I've blocked him on everything, changed my phone number, made sure he can't show up at my house. I don't hate him. I don't even think about him most days. He's just someone I used to know, someone I used to love more than life itself, someone who taught me the hardest lesson I've ever learned. Love is not enough. You can give someone everything and they can still choose to hurt you. And when they do, you have to choose yourself. Every single time, you have to choose yourself. 2 weeks ago, something else happened. Something I need to tell you before I finish this story. I got a letter. Not from Trevor, from Sloane, his ex-wife. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity got the better of me. Dear Mrs. Russo, you don't know me well, and I don't blame you if you hate me for being part of Trevor's lies. I'm writing because I need you to know something I didn't know about you, about the truth. Trevor told me you were dead. He showed me fake obituaries. He had an entire backstory prepared. When I found out the truth at that party, I was devastated. Not just because he'd lied, but because of what it meant about him as a person. What kind of man erases his own mother? I left him that night. I packed my things and moved out while he was still trying to process what had happened. But I'm writing because I think you should know what happened after. Trevor fell apart. Completely. He lost everything. His job, his apartment, his friends, his reputation. But more than that, he lost himself. I've stayed in contact with a mutual friend, and she tells me Trevor's been volunteering at a women's shelter, helping single mothers with job applications and resume building. He's been using his business expertise to help them for free. He's also been going to therapy, as you know, and he's been trying to track down his father, not to reconcile, but to confront him, to tell him that abandoning his family was unforgivable and that he won't make the same mistakes. I'm not telling you this because I think you should forgive him. I don't think that at all. What he did to you was monstrous. I'm telling you because I think you spent years wondering if you failed as a mother, and I need you to know you didn't. Trevor failed you. But the man he's becoming now? That man exists because of the foundation you built, because somewhere inside him, buried under years of selfishness and cruelty, were the values you taught him. It took losing everything, including you, for him to find them. You don't owe him anything. Not forgiveness, not a relationship, not even acknowledgement. But I thought you should know that your sacrifice wasn't for nothing. He's finally becoming the man you tried to raise him to be, just 35 years too late. With respect and admiration, Sloane, I read that letter 3 times. Then I put it in the drawer with Trevor's notebook. And I went about my day. Do I feel vindicated knowing Trevor's trying to change? A little. Do I feel proud? Maybe. Do I feel like reaching out to him? No. Because here's the thing. Nobody tells you about betrayal. Even when the person changes, even when they become better, the wound they gave you doesn't disappear. Trevor might become a good man. He might spend the rest of his life helping others, being honest, treating people with respect. But he'll never be my son again. Not in the way he was. Not in the way he could have been. That relationship is dead. And no amount of therapy or volunteering or growth will resurrect it. Maybe that makes me cold. Maybe some people will watch this and think I'm heartless, unforgiving, cruel. I don't care. I spent 35 years caring what other people thought, caring if I was being a good enough mother, caring if I was doing enough, giving enough, sacrificing enough. I'm done caring about anything except my own peace. And my peace requires distance from the person who shattered it. There's one more thing I need to tell you, the real ending to this story. Yesterday was Trevor's birthday, his 36th. I didn't call him, didn't send a card, didn't acknowledge it in any way, but I did something else. I made a donation to a scholarship fund for children of single parents, a large donation, enough to send 5 kids to college, kids whose mothers are working 3 jobs and falling asleep over their textbooks and wondering if they'll ever give their children a better life. I did it in my own name, not Trevor's, mine. Because that's who I'm honoring now, not the son who broke my heart, but the mother who survived it, the mother who built something from nothing, The mother who never gave up, even when giving up would have been easier. The mother who finally learned that she deserved better than she'd been given. That mother is my hero. That mother is who I'm proud of. That mother is me. So let me tell you what I've learned from all of this. Being a good parent doesn't guarantee you'll have a good child. Sacrifice doesn't obligate anyone to love you. Blood doesn't excuse betrayal. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away from someone you love with all your heart. I loved Trevor. Part of me always will. But I love myself more now. And that's not selfish. That's survival. If you're watching this and you're in a similar situation, if you have a child or a spouse or a parent or a friend who treats you like you're worthless, please hear me. You are not worthless. You are not too old, too difficult, too embarrassing, too much or too little. You are enough. You have always been enough. And you don't have to accept crumbs from people who should be giving you everything. Walk away. Set boundaries. Choose yourself. It will hurt. God, it will hurt. But staying hurts more. And eventually, after the pain fades, you'll find something you might have forgotten existed. Peace. That's where I am now. In my peace, in my joy, in my freedom. Trevor took 35 years from me. He's not getting one more day. I'm 57 years old. Too old for his party, apparently. But not too old to start my life over. Not too old to be happy. Not too old to matter. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for hearing my pain and my triumph. If this resonated with you, please subscribe to Stories Grandma Never Told. I share new stories every day, stories of survival, of strength, of people who thought they were broken but turned out to be warriors. Leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. Tell me your story if you want to share it. Tell me I'm not alone in this, because that's what stories like this do. They remind us we're not alone. They remind us that pain is universal, but so is strength. They remind us that rock bottom can be a foundation to build on. My name is Vivian Russo. I am 57 years old. I am a mother, an entrepreneur, a survivor, and a woman who finally learned to choose herself. And I am not too old for anything. Not anymore.